Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first day of spring. I'm feeling very spring-like today. I'm pulling down all my winter decor and putting up, just some spring things. I bought some tulips yesterday. I'm feeling very, very spring and I am just glad to see the winter moving out. Today I thought I would do a video talking about brands that do it best. So I saw Emily Noel did this video a few weeks ago and I laughed because she said, y'all are gonna go into your makeup collection and start asking this question: what brands do different categories best? That's exactly what I did. I started kind of rummaging through my makeup collection, kind of asking myself this question. And then I saw Jessica Braun, another one of my favorite YouTubers, also did this video. And I said, oh my gosh, apparently I have to do this video now because I can't stop thinking about this. So the idea behind this video is what brands do what category of makeup best. A lot of brands have their hero product, but in comparison, when we start comparing them to other brands, is there a certain area that they seem to just have it nailed down? Do they seem to really know what they're doing, whether that's with a single product or multiple products? And Emily Noel in her video kind of focused on just either high-end or drugstore. She didn't differentiate. And I found I had a really hard time with that. So I am actually going to delineate between high-end and drugstore just to make it easier on myself. I didn't include every single category, maybe just because there's a few categories that I'm like, they're not very sexy. Eyeliner is not very sexy as a category. So I didn't include a few categories, but I have most of them in this video. If that sounds good to you, stick around and we'll get started. So I thought we'd kind of go in order of makeup application. So we're gonna start with primers. So on the drugstore side, this was a very easy decision for me, frankly, because I don't like a lot of drugstore primers. I know that's really surprising, and I want to like drugstore primers, but I've just had a problem with quite a few of them. But this brand, I have never had well, I shouldn't say that, but this brand is my favorite, and that is e.l.f. And specifically, I love their putty primers. I have it in the original formula. I also have it in the acne fighting formula. I've tried the matte formula as well. Now, they also have a few other formulas. They have their Jelly Pop primer. Those are very highly rated. I just don't like the stickiness on my face. So think like Milk Hydro Grip. If you like that kind of primer where it leaves that kind of tacky feeling on your skin, if you like the Milk Hydro Grip, then you're gonna like the Jelly Pop primer. They just came out with a fragrance-free version of it because they do have a watermelon scented one. And I said in a previous video that I felt like I was rubbing watermelon Jolly Rancher all over my face. It was just so heavily scented. But I know they just released a fragrance-free one because I think people had the same problem I did. As much as that formula isn't for me, I recognize that a lot of people like it, and e.l.f. just knows what they're doing when it comes to primer. On the high-end side, this was an easy decision for me. I had to look no further than my OG, my Holy Grail primers, and that's from Hourglass. My Holy Grail primer is the Veil Mineral Primer. Oh, this is such a great primer. Now, this has SPF in it. It just does such a beautiful job creating a really nice canvas to put your makeup on top of, and it absolutely helps my makeup last longer. The last few months, they've released their Vanish Airbrush Primer. This is about blurring pores. It also does hold back oil a little bit more than this one, but frankly, I think both of them do because I have combination oily skin. The reason why I love these primers so much is I don't get super slick and shiny throughout the day. These are pricey. I recognize it, but they are just so good. Next category we're going to talk about are foundations. On the drugstore side, again, this was an easy decision for me. My favorite drugstore foundation is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear. This gives such a beautiful medium to full coverage. I would say medium because I tend to sheer it out a little bit, but medium coverage, skin-like foundation. It just looks really natural on the skin. It gives it a little bit of glow, but I would not call this a dewy or glowy foundation at all. Some people do, but I have tried way too many foundations that are like disco ball glow, and this one is just this beautiful kind of lit from within, slightly glowy skin finish. I also recently tried the L'Oreal True Match Nude, which is a serum foundation, which is kind of this very popular trend that's going on right now. And this is also beautiful. This is light, it's fluidy. I would call this sheer to maybe medium buildable coverage, but this is just such a great product for like a no makeup day. You just want to, you know, blur out a few imperfections, but you're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. On the high-end side, oh, you know, this was hard for me. I thought about like Estee Lauder. I love their double wear. I love Estee Lauder's Futurist Hydra Rescue. I love that formula. I thought about that. And I even thought about Dior. Their face and body foundation is amazing. But, you know, there are a few little things like the Estee Lauder. I do have struggles finding my right shade. The shade I have is good, but it's not great. And, you know, the Dior, the other foundations, I love the face and body, but their other foundations, they're good, but they're not amazing for me. Where this brand, the shade range is just on point for me. It's like it was made for my skin, and that is gonna be NARS. I've talked endless on my channel about the NARS Air Matte foundation. This is a semi-matte foundation. Doesn't make your skin look like a mask, but it is full coverage. This is my go-to. I'm going out, I'm going to a wedding, my skin needs to look flawless foundation. Oh, so beautiful. And then I am really enjoying the new light reflecting foundation from NARS as well that they just released back in January. Again, this is more of a serum-like foundation, kind of like that True Match Nude. And it's got some great skincare in here. It's more fluidy, and I would say it's light to medium buildable. And again, just a little bit, you know, a little bit of glow, a little bit different finish. But man, does NARS just hit it out of the park. They just know what they're doing when it comes to foundation. In the powder foundation category, again, in the drugstore end, I am reaching for L'Oreal, their infallible 24-hour fresh wear powder foundation. I am amazed at the coverage I get out of this with a powder foundation. It's so nice. And, you know, after I tried that e.l.f. Camo powder foundation, and I just really didn't like it, and I went back to this and I'm like, oh, this is what a powder foundation should be. I would highly recommend picking this up if you haven't tried it. On the high-end side, this was my favorite powder foundation that I tried last year. This is from Fenty Beauty. This is her Pro Filter Soft Matte Powder Foundation. The amount of coverage I get from this, and it is so skin-like. It is just such a beautiful finish. This is great. Moving on to concealers. When I talk about drugstore concealers, there's only a few that I actually like. I've tried a lot of drugstore concealers, and there's so many I don't like, but there is one brand that I do think is just really providing a lot of different options, a lot of different formulas, good formulas for concealer, and that's got to be Revolution. I really enjoy their Conceal and Hydrate concealer. I think if you're, you know, over 35 and you're starting to get some dryness underneath those eyes, even if the rest of your skin is more combination oily like mine, I think this is just a really nice formula. Now the shade, honestly, the shade range is crap. That's, you know, the only thing about it, but this is really nice. And then I also really like their eye break. Now, if you like the Charlotte Tilbury concealer with the little, you know, puff thing, this is a very similar formula. This is a very light coverage and it's more of a brightener. I find if I'm wearing a brightener, I really have to use a color corrector underneath because I'm just not going to get the coverage I need from this. But if, you know, you had a tiring day, you wake up and you're like, oh, and you need a little brightening, I definitely think this is worthwhile. This is a really nice formula. On the high-end side, I have tried some really great high-end concealers over the last year, but I had to give this to LANCOME just because they had my Holy Grail concealer that they discontinued and I was heartbroken. And then they released this 10 Idol Ultra Wear concealer, and I was almost like, oh my God, this boy broke my heart, and then showed up the next day with flowers and chocolate. That's how I felt. That's how I felt when this concealer launched. I was like, oh, okay, I forgive you, Lancome. If you haven't tried this, this is so great. This blends like a dream. It provides good medium, I guess up to full, but I have a few concealers that are like full coverage. This is more, I would say, medium buildable coverage, which is actually my preferred coverage. And it just blends out beautifully. It doesn't seep into fine lines and get all crepey and dry and gross. This is just great, and the shade range is great as well. And then the last category in our complexion is gonna be powders. Now I did break this up a little bit just because I use powders for very different reasons. And the first category is going to be for setting. What would you use as a setting powder? And I thought long and hard about this because I have a lot of powders I like, but I definitely have powders that I use on my face, but don't use under my eyes, or use under my eyes and don't use on the rest of my face. And I wanted to pick a powder that I can do both with. And believe it or not, that's a pretty short list. On the drugstore side, it's got to be this Maybelline Fit Me Translucent Loose Powder. This is really finely milled, very affordable, and I can use this under my eyes and on my face. I'm not going to look powdery. Everything's just going to set beautifully, and this is a great option, especially for us combination oily girls. On the high end, I love the powder from Charlotte Tilbury. You can see I have a mini here. You guys, look what happened. I almost cried because I'm hitting pan. My rule is if I hit pan on a mini and I love it, I'm gonna buy a large version. The Sephora VIB sale cannot happen quick enough because I am gonna be picking up a replacement for this. This is a great powder. I can use it under my eyes. I can use it on my face. It's just such a beautiful setting powder, and it does kind of hold back my oils to a certain extent, which if you haven't tried this, I know she's pricey, but beautiful. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about finishing powders. Now I just have a high end in this because I couldn't not talk about this brand, and that's Hourglass. When it comes to finishing powders, their ambient light powders are just amazing. If you're looking for just something special, you've set your makeup, you've done everything, but you just want a little bit of something to make it look different and special and finished, make everything just melt together, then I highly recommend the ambient lighting powders from Hourglass. Now I pick up the minis because again, these are pricey and it takes forever to get through a mini. My favorite is dim light, but they have so many options depending on your skin tone and your undertone. I also like diffused light a lot, and incandescent light is beautiful as well. I think these are confusing for a lot of people. They're kind of like, oh, well, I don't want to set my makeup with that. How do I use this? And once you figure that out, once you realize that, no, this is something you're going to add something extra to, I think people really learn to love these, but I think they can be quite intimidating when you first look at them. Moving on to cheek products, we're going to start with bronzer. So this was a very easy decision for me. This was one of the first bronzers I ever tried, and it was one of those like, oh, this is what bronzer can do. And that is the Butter Bronzer by Physicians Formula. I love this formula. Now, I absolutely hate this packaging, and I hate the fact that it's so heavily scented, but they also have some other bronzers as well that are also great quality. I just think Physicians Formula knows how to do a bronzer well. I love this because it warms up my complexion. It does not leave me orange. A lot of bronzers I have that issue with. And it's just such a beautiful finish. So even though the packaging is crap, I really, really like this bronzer. On the high-end side, this was a little harder. There's a lot of different bronzers that I really, really love. But I thought of, who just really knows how to do bronzer, that just bestseller, and every time you use it, you're like, oh yeah, this is such a great formula. And I got to give that to Benefit. Now I have the Hoola bronzer in this face palette right here, which I don't even think is available anymore. I keep talking about getting it as a single, but why would I get a single when I have it, right here? And then they also have other shades of Hoola in this palette. They have the Hoola Caramel. They also have the Hoola Glow if you want something more shimmery. This Hoola bronzer is just a perfect tone for me, not too orange, warms up my skin. Such a beautiful bronzer. Moving on to blush. On the drugstore side, this was so easy for me because there's only one brand that I think just hits it out of the park in all categories, and that is Milani. They have these beautiful baked powder blushes. They have the rose blushes that are really, really nice. And then they also show up to the cream blush game with their Cheek Kiss blushes. I have this one in the shade Nude Kiss. They even have it in the liquid in the squeezy tube. And oh my gosh, all of those formulas are amazing. So I have to give it to Milani. No matter what formula you're looking for, Milani's got a blush for you. On the high-end side, this was harder. Recently, I have been loving the Laura Mercier Blush Infusion blushes. This one is in the shade Passion Fruit. These are great. But you know what? The more and more I thought about it, I said, you know what? Who has the best shades? I got to give it up to Tarte. I know that these have been around for a really long time, but I just keep reaching for them and reaching for them. I think I fell in love with them when they launched their spring collection with this new special edition shade, this Bloom. It's just so pretty, such a pretty spring shade. And then I also have it in the shade Risque as well. And this formula, you just can't beat it. It's so amazing. And then moving on to highlight. On the drugstore side, I actually really struggled with this. I really like the Flower Beauty highlights, their cream highlight, and they just came out with a liquid wand highlight that I actually really want to try. I thought of Wet n Wild. Their highlighter is really nice. They've got a bunch of nice pretty shades of it. But the one that I kept going back to, because again of my more mature skin and what highlight looks the best on my mature skin, and that's going to be Essence. That's their Pure Nude highlighters. It's just, it is a subtle highlight. You're not going to see this from space, you guys, but you know, if you're just looking for a nice subtle highlight without emphasizing texture, look no further. And this is, you know, under 10 bucks. On the high end side, this was an easy decision. This goes to Charlotte Tilbury. I love both her powder highlights. Now I have mine in the Bronze and Glow. This is just one of my favorite highlights. Charlotte Tilbury knows mature skin, and this highlighter is so pretty. She also has that really large highlighter, but I'll be honest, I love this so much, and I don't need that big, large highlighter that I will never go through in my entire life. But I also love her liquid highlights. This is her Beauty Light Wand. This is in the shade Spotlight. Oh my gosh, if you want a little bit more oomph to your highlight, but not emphasize texture, this is where you need to go. I hate this applicator. It's messy, it gets kind of gross, but the product in here, top notch. Now I do have to give a shout out. We're in the middle of the 21 Days of Beauty. And if I was under 35, if I was looking for amazing highlights, high-end highlights, you know, I would reach for Ofra. Ofra has, I think they have the best highlighters on the market, but I do think because they are just so pigmented, so bright, I think that they can emphasize texture, and you have to be really careful with them. I think when it comes to Charlotte Tilbury, just because she has such a great understanding of mature skin, I think these are just more no-brainers, where I think Ofra, I have to think about it. I have to be very aware of what I'm doing when I put these on. All right, moving on to eyes. We're gonna start with mascara. Now this was really hard on the drugstore end. I have so many drugstore mascaras I love. I have mascaras from Maybelline, CoverGirl, Essence that I really like. But the more I thought about it, the more I said, you know what? The first drugstore mascara that just blew me away was Lash Paradise from L'Oreal. So I'm going to give this to L'Oreal. They have a bunch of different mascaras to choose from that are really nice. The drugstore is where it's at when it comes to mascara. They just do it so well. On the high-end side, this was a little tougher for me. There's been some great mascaras that have been launching over the last year. I love the Rare Beauty mascara that launched. I also love the Ilia mascara that launched last year. There's just been some really great ones. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought about this brand, because they have two different formulas. They're completely different than each other, and they are great. And that goes to Milk. Their original Kush mascara, this is a volumizing mascara. It's a wetter formula. I love this mascara. This is like a date night mascara for me. It's definitely, like I said, a wetter formula. It's thickening, it's very volumizing, and I really enjoy it. But I have been really loving the new Rise mascara from Milk. Now this is completely opposite. You're not gonna get a lot of volume here, but you're gonna get a lot of lift and lengthening. This just lengthens really nicely. It's got that kind of curved wand. And man, do I really enjoy this. I decided on Milk because, like I said, they have these two different formulas, both of which I love. It's just about what I'm looking for. Am I looking for a more everyday mascara, or am I looking for a date night mascara? Moving on to eyeshadow. In the drugstore, this was the easiest decision I made, and that goes to ColourPop. If you've watched my channel, you know I'm a big fan of ColourPop eyeshadow, just because the formula tends to be very consistent. I'm not a big fan of the crushed glitters. Again, I'm 45. I don't need crushed glitters in my life anymore. That's just me. If you like crushed glitters, you know, have at it. I just don't need them anymore. Whatever color story you're looking for, you can find. I just grabbed my favorite ColourPop palette, which is the Sweet Talk palette, but I love their Go Coconuts palette. I love the Taupe palette. I love the Nude Mood, the Blush. I mean, oh my gosh. I was just looking at the High Tide one, which is all these blues and greens that I'm like, I will never wear those, but I think these colors are beautiful and I really want to buy this palette. This is just that, you know, corally Sweet Talk that I just thought of immediately when I thought about spring. And then on the high-end side, this was harder for me. If you've watched my channel, you know I'm a big ABH eyeshadow formula fan. I really am. I do like Pat McGrath Labs as well, even though I think that's not great for beginners. I love the Tarte formula because I think it's a much better beginner formula. But, you know, if I'm perfectly honest with myself, what is the formula that I go to that I think is just absolutely amazing? That's got to be Natasha Denona. I know she's a pricey one, but her formulas, they just don't let me down. Now, she does experiment quite a bit. So I would say that's the big difference for me between ColourPop and Natasha Denona. She experiments a lot, and sometimes those experiments go really, really well, and sometimes you're like, I don't like this as much. But in general, gosh, her palettes, you know, whether we were talking about the big palettes, which are the really expensive ones, or my favorite size, which is the midi palettes. So I've got the bronze palette here and the retro palette. The glam palette is also amazing. And then again, if you want to dip your toe in the water, then these mini palettes, which are 25 bucks, which is still obviously expensive for a mini, but you've got everything you need in these mini palettes. I have the mini Biba here, and then I have the mini Crush here. I think there's maybe one or two of her mini palettes that I don't like. The majority of them are just so good. And then brows, when it comes to drugstore, I got to give this to NYX. I think they do such a great job with brow products. And if you like high-end brow products and you're looking for a dupe, you just go to NYX. They've got all the dupes there. I love their micro brow pencil. This is considered a dupe for the Brow Wiz by ABH. This is such a great brow pencil. If you like skinny brow pencils, this is a great one. And then I've been really enjoying their Thick It Stick It brow gel. They call it a brow mascara. Yeah, thickening brow mascara. It's a brow gel. Tinted brow gel. This is just a very quick and easy product. Now again, that wand is a little bigger, so I'm more likely to make a mess. I gotta be a little careful. But this is such a great alternative to high-end if you like brow gels. On the high-end side, this was also an easy decision. This is Benefit for me. I have yet to try a Benefit brow product I don't like. I just buy whatever is my preference. So I love their pomade. I love the little brow pen. My favorites are the Precisely My Brow pencil. And then I love their Gimme Brow brow gel, because again, you know that brow gels are my favorite for the most part. But even if you want to make sure your brows are going nowhere, their 24-hour brow setter is amazing as well. If you are new to the brow game like I was, I would start here. And then NYX, like I said, has some really great dupes to a lot of these products. But if you're figuring out what your preference is, I would start with Benefit. All right, we're working on our last category. We're talking about lips. I realized I didn't do lip liners. Sorry guys. I like the Milani lip liners. Those are my favorite. And I really like the Charlotte Tilbury lip liners if we're looking at the high-end side. So in regards to lipsticks, again, this was an easy decision for me, both on the drug store side and the high-end side. In the drugstore, I immediately go to Maybelline. I think Maybelline has the best lip products on the market, hands down. And I like so many of their different formulas. If you're looking for a liquid lipstick, their matte ink, this stays put. It's not super drying, which I love. If you're looking for more of a crayon, this is their Super Stay line, their ink crayons. These are also awesome as well. And again, they stay put. During our mask time, this was probably something I used at least 3 times a week because I knew when I took my mask off, it would still be there. And then I also love their bullet lipsticks. This is their Color Sensational line. I think this is in the shade Truffle Tease, which is a really nice nude. But this is such a beautiful line as well. They just do everything right. They know exactly what they're doing when it comes to lip products. On the high end, again, this was an easy decision for me. This just happens to be my favorite lip formula. I do like a lot of them, but this is my favorite. And goes to Charlotte Tilbury. I love all of her formulas. Frankly, I love her Hot Lips formulas. I love her Matte Revolution. If I had to choose between the two, I think maybe her Matte Revolution is my favorite. But I love this formula as well. And there's so many shades to choose from. They're all so flattering. I can't give it up enough for Charlotte Tilbury lip products. And then finally, let's talk about lip gloss. On the drugstore end, again, you've heard me scream and yell and praise Maybelline. I'm going to continue to do that. Their lifter glosses are my absolute favorite lip gloss from the drugstore. Again, they know what they're doing. There's many shades to choose from. You can't go wrong with these. On the high-end side, I actually struggled with this. There's a few different lip gloss formulas that I really, really like. Most recently, I have been loving the NARS lip shines. Oh my gosh. If you haven't tried these, try them. But the more I thought about it, I said, okay, what's just iconic when you think lip gloss and you think high-end, when you think Sephora? It's the Fenty Gloss Bombs. I love these. I love the original formula. I love the cream formula. Now, to be fair, I don't like the new heat formula. They use cinnamon oil in it. I actually had a reaction to it. It blistered my lips. So unfortunately, I can't use that, but I got big lips anyway, so I don't generally need a plumping formula. These, you just can't go wrong. Whether you're getting like the little minis and the holiday sets, or whether you're getting the full size, you just can't go wrong with these. So that's it, you guys. I hope this was a lot of fun. I had so much fun going through my makeup collection and trying to answer these questions. And it was so hard. Some of them came right to mind, and others I had to sit there and stare at my makeup and try to decide. And it just made me realize how much good makeup there is, both at the drugstore and high end. What did you think? Did I miss anything? I would love to hear in your comments below if you felt that I got it right. Did I get it wrong? Are there certain formulas that you think are so much better than this? Or are there formulas that you think I should be trying? I would love to know. And please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I would love for you to join our little community here on YouTube. And until my next video, you guys, bye.